identity that you want the team to play with?
I think we're reasonably comfortable with it in terms of regular season hockey. So there was a playoff almost, I would say, style by our team. There wasn't the physicality maybe that you would see in a normal playoff game, but the style is right. And I think our neutral zone's been very, very good for 4 games. And against the last 2 opponents especially, and I'm going to include these guys here because they got a really good offensive game, that's a key piece for us. So we're further ahead of where we were last year at this time, clearly in that department alone. So we're comfortable with it. I still would like to see a bit more physicality at the right time by our team. But it's an interesting thing. You take one player out, Sam Bennett, who's going to get you 2 or 3 hits a night. It changes how you feel about your game. So I think that there's been the appropriate amount of desperation, and we are closer to a playoff style clearly than we were last year at this time.
The goal for Bennett still the road trip, or?
Yes is the answer to that, but maybe before.
Okay, so you could
Seattle.
Since
So
you have next week.
I think he's not that far off now. He may be knocking on the door for San Jose, but we got a 3-day block after that, which would put, if nothing changes, right? The reason that we never tell you until the day is because things change, right? You get a guy out on the ice and you tweak it. We don't need anybody else to know about it. So, yeah, it's next week. He'll be back.
Okay, and Nico, and he left the game, came back.
He's fine.
He's fine.
Yeah, he skated yesterday. He's fine.
And for NHL.com purpose, any lineup changes
None.
today? None.
None.
Okay.
That includes Bob.
He's going to be in the lineup too, yeah.
The goalie.
Yeah, Sergei's playing tonight.
You talk about the weapons that the Canucks have. Quinn Hughes looks like he's taken another step this year.
Yeah.
What challenges he pose back there just with the two-way game that he has?
Because on that skill set on the blue line, and it's not just up the ice, where you see it most is on the offensive line. He can control a puck and he can beat a guy, and the guy's not being casual, but his ability to spin off people, to fake and come back the other side. He's an elite skater. So there's got to be a little bit more containment. And the challenge for us is we don't like that containment game, right? We want to put as much pressure on the puck as we possibly can, and we want to be as physical as we possibly can. And then you'll get a player like that where you got to, well, maybe you have to pull off this a little bit, because if you lunge at him, he's in behind you, and he's so dynamic. So he's unique on the blue line.
When you talk about setting that tone, how much does the fourth line do that when they get out there, kind of refresh that every time they're out there, just with the forechecking and the physicality they do?
It's a huge part, because it is a different game, a different kind of puck control game that they play. And there are nights when you play Toronto or you play New Jersey that when you're running against their top 2 lines, you have to be a little bit more careful about what you do. So you can't run out of position. But when we get into 3 and 4s on that matchup, we can be physical and we can be fast. So we need that for the rest of the rotation to feel like it. If they don't play that game, then it kind of starts to feel a little bit like a soft game, and you don't like that. So they're that identity line, right? Those are the guys that their challenge is to look the exact same way every shift all night long.
Notice Steven Lorentz only played 5 minutes
Yeah.
last game. Is that more of a special teams deal where he wasn't out
Yeah.
there, or is there more you want to see from him?
No, it is a special teams thing, because we got into some penalties, and I like I said, I like Luosterainen and I like Stenlund really as a pair. You may start seeing them come out first, but the third grouping ended up being Lombard and Lundell, and we're trying to kind of give Ryan that opportunity to develop himself into a penalty killer. We know Lundell can, but he's always gone with Barkov, but it's time for him to kind of step up and take a more senior pairing. So Steve is kind of waiting in the wings for the opportunity. If the 6 guys go and we like it, we'll probably just leave it. So you just kind of, sometimes the same thing happened to Nick Cousins the game before. I kind of lost him on the bench. I think he played 6. So when we get into a bigger number game, bigger penalty kill, there's going to be 1 forward whose numbers are going to suffer.
And then Stenlund and Luosterainen kind of bring what you liked with him and Eric Stahl,
Right.
but Stenlund has more of a speed element to him. Is that kind of what you like about that?
Well, there's you're right. They have. It's been easy for Luosterainen to kind of fold in with Stenlund because it's a version, but first and foremost, he's a very strong right-handed face-off man. So they get to pick what side. You're going to get teams that are going to take all the faces off on one side. If it's on the other side, Barkov's taking them all night long. But on that side, on Barkov's weak side, having somebody like Stenlund that can take the face-offs is critical, right? And then he's got some experience with it, right? He's Eric Stahl. I mean, never got near a penalty kill till he was probably 37, right? So he was a power play guy his whole life. This is what Stenlund is and what he does for a living.
Coach Stenlund, OEL, Rodriguez, Nico Mikkola, they all scored their first goal as a Florida Panther. How encouraging is it to see, a lot of these new additions looking comfortable early on in the season?
And we like the additions, but just from an interpersonal kind of team thing, it's so important for new guys to be able to walk in the room and feel like they're bringing something. Okay, this is who I am, right? When a new guy comes in and he struggles a little bit, confidence is so much more fragile. If you take a returning veteran player and in the middle of the season he goes 10 games without a goal, it's really not that big a deal. We've seen it before. But when the new guy walks in, he wants to show everybody what he can do. So it's good for those guys to get on the board. They get the tabs and the pads. We show it on the video. The next day they get chirped a little bit, and it's all part of that culture building. So really critical. We've liked had they not scored, we're really happy with them. But that for them personally is very important.
How different is it preparing a team, or is it at all coming off a long playoff run and for the next season? And
Yeah, I think it would be a bigger challenge if this, for the coaching staff, there's 8 of us. If this was year 7 and 8, right? This is all brand new to all. I've got almost a half a new team. We're still in some ways new to these guys a little bit too. So all we did this year was kind of reinvest in last year. So we ran almost, the first 5 days were almost identical. We didn't make any system changes. We have areas that we want to get way better at, and that was focused kind of the second and third part of camp. This year we're all still new, so it wasn't particularly difficult to find. Now, our job this year as coach, we've got to find the soul of this team, figure out what it makes it tick, and it's different every year, but that will develop over the course of the season. For the training camp, we specifically didn't want any changes. We wanted it exactly the same. We wanted it just as hard. The players made it harder. They pushed harder in camp, which was a great sign for us. So I would say it really wasn't that difficult. In terms of the plan, the result, we'll see how that goes. The plan was easy.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, have a good day.